Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another reaction video. My name is Paul. We're back here with the Crusades, or the First Crusade, part two of the First Crusade. And yeah, the first one was very interesting. I liked it a lot. Definitely learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure. And we're almost at Jerusalem. I guess that's the next stop. We're going to Jerusalem in this video, so that's going to be very interesting, and can't wait to see how that goes down. So, yeah. So let's get to it, guys. Before we do, please like and subscribe, guys. And yeah, this is on Epic History TV. Great channel. I'm definitely gonna be checking out more videos by them. So yeah, let's get to it. Right.
October 1097. 2 years had passed since Pope Urban II preached a crusade to help the Byzantine Empire in its war against the Seljuk Turks. Now, the First Crusade had reached the great city of Antioch. It was the last major Turkish stronghold, standing between the crusade and its goal, the holy city of Jerusalem.
We got to make it to Jerusalem, right? That shows how much I know about this. Is like I don't even know. I'm not even 100% sure they make it Jerusalem. I'm pretty sure they do, but it just shows how much I even know about the Crusades. Like they gotta get to Jerusalem, right? I mean, it wouldn't be much of a video if they didn't.
But Antioch was virtually impregnable, with its citadel atop a 1,000-foot mountain and too large to encircle. The giant Crusader army could only camp outside its walls and pray for a miracle. But that winter, they ran out of food. Horses, men, and camp followers began to starve.
Wow.
A trickle of supplies continued to arrive by sea, mostly from the Byzantine-controlled island of Cyprus. And they defeated an attempt by Radwan of Aleppo to break the siege at the Battle of Lake Antioch. But the Crusaders' situation seemed hopeless. Morale fell as deaths and desertions rose steadily.
I'm gonna say, you're like in a foreign country, you're no way getting food, there's so many people to feed that the food you have is so scarce among everybody. And it had to be rough, just sitting there waiting, and then they're up there, like, sitting pretty in the castle, like, I mean, they're probably fully stocked, on their food, and it's gotta be rough.
In March, a Crusader fleet arrived with much-needed reinforcements and supplies.
There we go.
Finally, one night, Bohemond of Taranto and 60 of his men scaled a tower on the southern wall, whose commander had been bribed. As dawn broke, Bohemond's men opened the city gates, and the Crusader army poured in.
Wow.
They massacred soldiers and civilians alike, while desperate Muslim survivors fled to the citadel, which continued to resist all attacks.
Wow.
Antioch had fallen, but now a giant Turkish army was assembled under the...
I'm sorry, but just the visuals and stuff like that of them coming in, that's just really cool. I just think, the graphic is just really cool.
Fallen. But now a giant Turkish army was assembled under the command of Khur Buga, governor of Mosul. First, he attacked Baldwin in Edessa, but abandoned his siege after 3 weeks and marched on Antioch. The Crusader army was exhausted, starving, and now trapped.
Uh-oh.
They could expect no help from the Byzantines. Emperor Alexius, busy securing his own territory in Anatolia, had received false reports that the crusade had already been destroyed. Fearing a Turkish counterattack, he withdrew to Constantinople.
Okay.
Then, inside Antioch, a relic was miraculously discovered. Supposedly the Holy Lance thrust into Christ's side at his crucifixion. and the Crusaders' faith in their holy mission was renewed. Although heavily outnumbered, the Crusaders decided to meet the Muslim army outside the city walls.
Look how big that is.
With the zeal of religious fanatics, seeing visions of saints and angels, they charged the Muslim army, which turned and fled.
Really?
Boga, accusing his commanders of treachery, possibly correctly, set fire to his camp and withdrew.
Wow, looked like that, that army was so huge. I can't believe the Crusaders, like, basically scared them off. Wow. It's crazy.
And withdrew. The Muslim defenders in the citadel, witnessing this stunning victory, quickly surrendered.
Here we go.
In summer 1098, Fatimid forces from Egypt captured Jerusalem from the Artukid Turks. Al-Afdal, Grand Vizier or Chief Minister of Egypt, saw the Seljuk Turks as his greatest enemy, and even tried to make an alliance with the Crusaders against them. But the Crusaders were not interested. Instead, they spent 5 months around Antioch, foraging supplies and arguing among themselves. Stephen of Blois and Hugh of Vermandois had already given up and returned home.
I guess that's like, because there's no like one leader. They're all kind of there in their own group. And I guess that's a big, big disadvantage, because then people can just take off and there's no consequences. And now they're depleted in numbers now, I guess.
Stephen of Blois and Hugh of Vermandois had already given up and returned home. Now Bohemond of Taranto claimed the former Byzantine city of Antioch for himself, breaking his oath to Emperor Alexius to return such territories to him. Bohemond argued that the emperor had broken the oath first by failing to help the Crusaders during the siege. Divisions deepened after Bishop Adhemar of Le Puy died from illness. He'd been the Crusade's spiritual leader and a unifying presence on their council. Meanwhile, Crusaders carried out a brutal massacre of civilians at Ma'arat al-Numan.
Come on now.
Pressure from the mass of ordinary Crusaders forced their leaders to put aside their differences and march south towards Jerusalem. Except for Bohemond, who remained in Antioch, where he declared himself prince. As the Crusaders entered Fatimid territory, many local rulers offered up money and supplies to avoid violence. Other villages had been abandoned. As the Crusaders neared Jerusalem, they found wells poisoned, trees cut down, and animals driven away. Anything that could help the Crusaders had been destroyed. On the 7th of June, 1099, the Crusaders got their first sight of Jerusalem. Many fell to their knees and wept with joy. But they faced a serious challenge. They were now reduced to about 12,000 fighting men, not enough to encircle the city, and they were running out of food and water. Jerusalem would have to be taken by storm.
Here we go.
The barren landscape meant the Crusaders had no timber to build siege engines. And on the 13th of June, their first assault with a single scaling ladder was easily repulsed.
Right?
4 days later, 6 Genoese galleys arrived at Jaffa, where they were soon blockaded by the powerful Fatimid fleet. So the sailors took apart their ships and carried the timber to the siege at Jerusalem.
Huh.
The Crusaders foraged more wood from the surrounding land, enough to build 2 siege towers. These mobile wooden structures would be wheeled up to the outer wall and allow the Crusaders to directly assault the enemy battlements.
Yeah, I might have been called it The Last Kingdom. There was, I forget which movie it is, where they have those siege towers and they try to take, I think it's Jerusalem they try to take. And it's just so crazy. Just the guys pushing those things in there, man, like war, but that had to be horrible, man. To live back then and go through all that. Damn.
And allow the Crusaders to directly assault the enemy battlements. One tower was stationed with Raymond of Toulouse's forces in the southwest. The other was with Godfrey of Bouillon's troops to the north. On the 8th of July, seeking God's aid in the impending assault, the entire crusade walked in procession around the city, finishing with a religious service on the Mount of Olives. On the night before the attack, Godfrey suddenly moved his siege tower to a less well-defended section of the city walls.
Huh.
The final assault began on the 15th of July, 1099.
Whoa.
In the north, Godfrey of Bouillon's troops managed to fight their way across from their tower onto the city walls, establishing a bridgehead. Soon, they were inside the city,
they made it.
and overcome with religious euphoria and pure bloodlust, they went on the rampage,
Wow.
butchering soldiers and civilians, Jews and Muslims, women and children.
Wow.
It was an orgy of shocking, prolonged slaughter. Barbaric, but not unique for the age. The First Crusade had secured its goal in the face of overwhelming odds. And just 4 weeks later, at the Battle of Ascalon, the Crusaders smashed a Fatimid relief army sent to recapture Jerusalem. Most Crusaders, their vows fulfilled, soon returned home to Europe. Only around 300 knights remained to defend Jerusalem under Godfrey of Bouillon, now named Defender of the Holy Sepulchre.
That's not many.
The man who'd set these great events in motion, Pope Urban II, did not live to hear the news that Jerusalem had been taken. He died just 2 weeks after the city's fall. The new Crusader states that emerged, the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the County of Tripoli, the Principality of Antioch, the County of Edessa, lived on precariously, surrounded by enemies. And the Muslim world would not remain so catastrophically divided for long. Soon it would unleash its own holy war against the Crusader states.
Yeah, here it comes.
Turning the Holy Land into a battleground for almost 2 centuries.
2 centuries?
In response, more crusades would be launched from Europe, but none would ever match the bloody, spectacular success of the First Crusade. Research and artwork for this video comes from Osprey.
For some reason, I wasn't expecting them to take Jerusalem, but they did. And then you're staying in those, castles and everything when, enemy territory, and only left 300 knights. That seems kind of crazy. But wow, and that's the First Crusade. So obviously, this continues to go on for 200 years, and I'm assuming, we keep tug of war over Jerusalem and stuff like that. Well, that's really, really entertaining. I love the graphics and kind of show you kind of how, where the armies are and everything. It's very well done. If you like this video, please hit the like, guys, and please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Thank you guys for watching. I love these kind of videos, so I'm definitely doing more. Anyways, peace, and I'll catch you guys in future videos.